Because I know them, because I trust them. Bidwells are a lovely old-fashioned company where they employ good people and they treat them properly, and the company has a really nice culture. Which, I mean, they invite all the Oxford Bursars for a lunch once a year, and you just trust them. They're good, honest people, and they're very professional, and they're very good at their job. Specifically, we've worked with Richard before. I've worked with Richard on a couple of projects before, where he's acted as our project manager. So I know him, and I know how he works, and I trust him, and he's very competent, but he's also good fun. So that was a very established relationship, and I kind of trust him. So when he suggested that we work with Beard, if it had been anybody else, I don't think I would have trusted it, but because of the track record and because I know Richard, I was very prepared to trust what he was saying, and it worked out well.
And no doubt this was a very big project for the college.
Yep.
Took a while to come to fruition. How important was ensuring that the project was managed in a very organised, efficient way, both in terms of having to get it done on time, but also kind of putting your mind at ease, so it's going to have minimal disruption to
the project. I mean, there's project managers and architects and contractors, and from the client's point of view, the project manager is absolutely key because they are the interface. They kind of translate, if you like, between the college world and the client's world, and the architect's world and the contractor's world. So the architects talk very different language to them for the contractors, and what Bidwells generally, and Richard specifically, but also later on in the project, Chris, were just able to be the kind of interpreter between those worlds. So Richard can talk to us very sympathetically and understandingly, and be very responsive to our concerns, no matter how petty and silly in Oxford they are. And then he can translate that and have into talking to the contractors and talking to the architects. And he's just very good at living in those different worlds. And he's very good at communicating, and formally and informally. So you always feel as if you know what's going on, but you also feel as if Richard's managing the relationship between us and the contractor and the architect. Probably the most complicated is managing the architect, because the architects want lovely, clean buildings, and what we want is a building that's lovely but also works. And what the contractor wants is a building that he can build. And it tends to be that if you don't have a project manager who can keep the architects in the real world, then you get an over-designed building that looks lovely but isn't functional. And Richard was sometimes scarily robust in kind of putting the architects back in their little creative box and making sure that we had light switches that worked and showers that weren't costing £350 a go, that kind of thing. So he's very good at operating in those different worlds.
And talk to me about how they managed, alongside you, the restrictions of this project, the building restrictions of this project.
They were very involved right the way through. So even when we were doing the provisional planning and the provisional design, they were there in terms of advising what would probably fly and what wouldn't fly. So they were kind of influential right at the start, and then they were very influential in managing ensuring that our concerns, making sure that the site didn't interfere with the operation of the college, were understood and were translated to the contractors, and then making sure when things went wrong, then Richard and Chris's role as the project managers was to remind people and enforce what we wanted. So it was very easy for us because we could have nice civilised conversations with Richard or with Chris, and then they go off and have the more difficult conversations, either with the architects or the contractors. So if you have a good relationship and you can communicate well with your project managers, it makes it so much easier, because you just say to them whatever's bothering you, and then they sort it. So they've got a very schizophrenic life, actually, moving between several worlds, which I wouldn't want to do at all. But the reason it was so well managed, and the reason it was so easy from the college's point of view, was because of the quality of Bidwells and the way that Richard and then later Chris managed it for us.
Nice.